Hi guys, Queen of Flannel here. Welcome back to the channel. First off, before we start, I want to apologize that it has taken me so long to get a part 2 of this image out to you guys. I have been wanting to work on this and finish this image and record it for you guys. And as life often does, things popped up. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to hopefully finish this side of the image and do some of the final detail work. Now, let me kind of talk you guys through this portion up here and what I have planned for this. So when I started this, the intent of this series was to show you guys how to underpaint with markers and use colored pencil to do your detail work. So we started with Thor, and there is a part 1. I will pop the button up in the corner over there to the first part of the video. And I hadn't really planned out what I was going to do with the sky, so we just kind of focused on this portion, and I left him just really basic in terms of shading and detailing, because I had kind of a plan in my mind that however I did the sky was going to influence some of my final detail work and whatever happened down here. So I looked up some reference pictures of, stormy skies and lightning storm, backgrounds and things like that. And I found the reference picture that I'll pop up on the screen, and I'll also put a link to it. And I really liked the turquoise and kind of tan colors. I thought that would be a nice pop in contrast to his tunic, his cloak, and that I would be able to pull it down into the bottom down here. So I did use Inktense for this, and I did record it. It will hopefully come out in the future as part of a different series. I chose to kind of do it separate than Thor and what we've got going on over here, and just focus this series on the markers and the colored pencils. So what we're going to do today is going to work on this side of the mountains. I'm going to show you guys how I got this effect over here, and then we should be able to do our final detail work. But what I'm going to do first is I've got some aqua ocean breeze colored. This is Craftsmart. It came from either Joann's or Michael's. And I'm going to go through and use it on our lightning. Should be out of the way where it'll dry while I'm doing the rest of this. So I've got some super tiny paintbrushes here. I think I'm going to go with this is my 2.0 Craftimo bamboo detail brush. And just real quick before we actually get into the marker, I'm going to just go through and kind of outline this. Hopefully this works. May have to go over it with pencil if it blends in a little too much. And I'm not super worried about bring up all of the black line. I just need to blend it in with my background, and I can touch it up later if I need to. So yeah, so this is kind of my plan for the rest of this is once I get the paint down, outlining the lightning. I should I wanted to show you guys this portion of it, but because I really lean far in past, a little hard to see. Once I'm done, I'll hold it up to the camera. If I zoom in and if I zoom in too far, show you guys, I'll lose some of the quality of the video. So we're just gonna try and get this on here, and then while this is drying, we will work on the right side of the mountain below. And what I will do is I will do the marker base for you guys. Kind of blends into my sky here, but that's okay. We can go in and that up. So I'll do the marker base for you guys, and then I will do some of the pencil work and talk you guys through the process and show you the combo that I used and how I went about sorry, it's hard to paint these fine lines and talk. How I set up the detailing for this side, and then once I get you guys a good foundation of how I did it, I will speed the footage up so you guys can watch the finish the rest of it up, because it did take me quite a while, and I don't want this to be like a 3-hour long video. And I may have to go in and touch some of this up afterwards. I could have put this on a palette and diluted it out, but I can always add in some white with a pencil around it, just to kind of separate some of it from the background there. I was gonna do this with an acrylic paint pen, but I wasn't sure I had one in the color I wanted that that had a fine enough applicator. And so it doesn't need to be a consistent wash around the whole thing, because in the reference photo you've got different tonal values, and nature is not always consistent. So this is just to kind of tone down some of these black lines, and I've already kind of done some of it on his arm up here, and I will do it the same thing on his face when this dries and when I get into the detail work on that. But just giving him that little bit of like a turquoise glow to his skin in the areas where the lightning kind of where it wraps around him, and where it's coming out of like his eyes. And I think this will give me some better detail on his face too, around his eyes, rather than just blank white orbs. It doesn't need to be perfect, just adds a little bit of pop to it. And then we'll have to go in. I think I probably will just end up using pencils for Mjolnir here when we get to that. but I am toying with, I mean, it's going to happen eventually when my work trip starts, and I'm still trying to figure out how that is all going to work, but eventually I will have to drop down to probably a one video a week schedule for the next little while. And we've already kind of been trending in that vein. It's just been very difficult to um stick to a schedule with everything else that's going on, and that's unfortunate because I like consistency. And I think some of that comes from the military background. I like having a routine and I like having a schedule, but in well, I mean, I kind of try and treat the channel like it's my job. Just because it gives me a sense of working working towards something. Uh, but with other responsibilities and in things that have come up, inevitably the channel and my desire to want to you know grow the channel, because I do. I would like to get to the point where even if it doesn't become a full-time gig, that I could do it as a bit of a side hustle, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy recording and sharing art with you guys. I love seeing what other people are doing in creating, and what influences um other creators. But other responsibilities, and so I am trying to figure out what my next steps are and how I'm going to navigate the oh, all the time I do this. All right, so I went over a little too far and I don't want to put my hand in the paint, so I'm going to turn the book here, and this actually will help me see a little bit better, to make sure you guys can see. But I am trying to figure out what comes next, and how, with some of the things that are coming up, life wise, how that's going to play out. So I'm working on, or I'd like to start working on, if other projects and other life things calm down enough for me to do that. Pre-recording some things that I can schedule to come out later. Too much on there. So I will hopefully be able to start doing some of that. And I'd like to participate in mermaids, so I've been looking through and trying to find some mermaids in some of my ugh, wow. Can't talk. um some of my books to do some mermaid. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. All right, this is gonna be some very detailed work. And I may go over this with a little bit of white once it dries, just to tone it down a little bit. And then, let's see, trying to make sure I do this in order where I'm not putting my hand through the paint, because that would make me sad. And well, I mean, it would. I have two images, 2 pages in this book that I've been working on. And it would be to get those two finished. So I've really been trying to focus on this and the Oni that I did for a whip video, and the Oni is actually almost done. I just need to finish off like part of his hair and one of the koi fish and a piece of the background, and then whatever else detail wise. Today we are going to focus on trying to get Mr. Thor done, or at least a majority of the marker and pencil work, because there is some work to do on this portion up here, but I'm going to do that in a different video. Like I said, I have recorded some of that. And worst comes to worst, if I don't get done what I want to get done in this video, we'll do a part 3. It just may end up being a shorter video, because at that point we won't have a whole lot left to do. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. I'm really happy with the way this has turned out so far. I actually think I will probably do this whole book markers and pencils. Then it will keep the style consistent. Okay. This out of the way and turn the book back. And oh man, okay. Disregard. I'm sorry, guys. I missed this. Missed this up here. Dries pretty quick, so. Alright, so we've got that done, and there's just a couple more, and then we should be able to get into the marker work. And I can always come back and touch that up afterwards if I need to. Okay, so that should be good now. I brush off in case I do it again. Get out of the way. And it should be good enough for me to work around here and not disturb it, although it does dry quick. All right, so for the mountain, I did switch markers. We used the Tombos over here, and I am going to use one of my Ohuhu water-based markers. This is number 36. And then for pencils, because I used Inktense, I switched from primarily, I did go back to the polychromos for a couple spots on Thor, but for the majority of the detail work on our mountains, I switched to the Lightfast, the Derwent Lightfast pencils, because I was able to color match with the Inktense better that way. Now, I am not really a big fan of this set of Ohuhu markers, and I don't know if they have improved on this formula for these markers since I bought these last year. I find them to be quite streaky compared to the Tombos. And that's not a huge deal for this because we're going over it with colored pencils. And we've already talked about how to correct some of that streakiness out if it, well, when it happens. So it's not, I'm not super worried about it, and it's fine because I did want to show you guys that you don't need expensive markers to be able to do this technique. And a lot of these spaces in here where I've left white or it looks streaky, we're going to be going over with darker colored pencils anyways because shading. And so not a huge deal, but I have barely used this set of markers, And just from this portion over here, I've already wore down the tip on this marker. So it is something to keep in mind, and that is absolutely not a knock on Ohuhu. I have their alcohol markers and a couple of their other products and absolutely love them. Just this set of water-based markers is not my favorite. But they do the job, so. The binding on this book into these corners here is frustrating, so I may have to break the binding later on. But yeah, we'll get the markers down. Do a little bit of the pencil work, and then I will speed it up because it is going to take me a while, and we are already at a half an hour into this video. So down here, I am being a little conservative with how far up with the marker I go, because I want to be able to blend the skin into the rock. So we'll do that portion when we come back. And I'm being super messy with this. It looks really ugly right now, but I promise you we'll get to this over here. It's just one of those things that you kind of have to just trust the process. And I guess it's like anything. If you start really looking at it and you're like, "Oh my god, this is ugly. It's not coming out the way I want." And you start getting frustrated because it looks like a hot mess. Just take a break. Step away from it. Do something else, and then come back a little later and look at it in just from a new perspective. That usually makes me feel a little bit better to just take a break and then come back. And I'm like, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it was when I stepped away from it. There's a definite ugly phase to this process. And you just have to kind of find the balance between like, you don't want to overwork it. I also find that sometimes that happens to me where I just keep pushing, and sometimes that ends up making it look worse than if I had just, you know, get to a point where I stop. it's funny because when I when this book was announced, I mean, I knew I was going to get it because I have all of Kirby's other books and I do love his work. And I was not going to watch any flip throughs. I wanted to be surprised. And then when I saw some of the reviews and some of the comments floating around, I was like, oh boy, maybe I should take a look. And this is definitely not a subject matter for everyone. Some of the pictures are, you know, dark in content, but that's mythology for you. And then as I started working in the book when I got it, I realized that I could actually see myself completing every image in this book. And I don't know if it's, because reference photos and things like that, I could go look up reference photos and actually try and create based off of those reference photos, which you can do with anything, but just looking up the myths and um whatnot. So all right, I'm just grabbing my colors here. Will you guys, so I did use quite a few colors, and I will put these down below. Primarily it was let's see, and all right, so those so this is sepia red and some brown ochre. I didn't use a whole lot of these on the other side, but there were a couple spots I used the brown ochre to kind of fill in and correct some areas. So I will list those down below, and if I do grab them to use, I will let you guys know. But primarily my combo was I used, this is racing green, and I used this up along the edges here where the horizon, where the skyline meets the mountains, to give some of the effect of the sky casting, those shadows, this light onto the top of the mountains, and it gave me some interesting effects with my shadows rather than just using gray and brown. And then I used just very, very sparingly some of the Pacific blue, again, just to tie in my sky. I did use some of the turquoise green, which was also, again, to tie into the sky and to use it as some highlights around Thor up here, where the lightning would be casting some glow. And then for my shadows and to kind of correct out some of my color, I went with natural brown for the majority of these little areas in here where Kirby gave us these shade lines. And then the sandstone was kind of my correction color. And it's not an exact match, which I wasn't really bothered by, considering that we're coloring the side of a mountain, so there'd be variations anyways. But it did give me it gave me a nice tone and allowed me to, correct out some of these little areas where things got a little streaky. So again, those are the primary colors. And then I did, while I was sitting here doing some of the detail work, I did use some of the polychromos grays, just in some of the deeper little shadows. But let's go ahead and I will walk you through a little bit of the process for this top portion here. So I started out with with the racing green, and just kind of went in um, up around the top portion here of the mountains. And I'm working pretty light. I can always go back and darken it up if I want. If I feel like I need to. I didn't want it to. I still wanted the separation between the mountain and the sky. But just being really light at first, and then going back and adding more where I felt like I needed or wanted it, darkening things up. And kind of my process when I do this is, unless it's like a base color, especially on something like this with a mountain range where there is quite a wide berth of different colors and tones, is I bounce back and forth between my pencils quite a bit. So that's part of the reason why I'm going to show you guys first a little bit of how I did this, and then I'll speed it up, because it would be kind of a big undertaking during the sped up portion when we get to that, of adding in the pencil cards, because I move back and forth so much. It would just be a constant like flashing of pencil cards. So if I just kind of explain to you guys what I'm putting where on a little bit of this, then move over to the sped up version, and you guys will have the combo for it. And then I also hit a point sometimes where I just start grabbing things, which is what happened with Thor over here. I ended up bringing in some Prismacolor for the skin, because I couldn't find a color in the Lightfast that I felt like matched, and I happened to have a he was Deco Peach Prismacolor pencil sitting on my desk, so I just kind of started just grabbing things, and sometimes that's that's how I work. And this doesn't have to be perfectly blended in. I mean, it's a mountain, so it's going to have texture to it, so I'm not worried about some of these like little scribble lines and things like that. And once you get enough pencil down and you start adding in your different values and tones and things like that, then it will all come together. Oh, that's okay. A little reflection off of that. I just accidentally went into his leg with the natural brown, and that's okay, because I think I ended up using some of the natural brown when I did the other leg. So let's see, we're at 41 minutes right now. So let me you guys a little more of the sandstone here. So this is just kind of filling in some of those funky spaces. And this was kind of where I brought in the brown ochre in a couple spots as well, just to keep some highlighted areas. So it's just a lot of like back and forth. And then just kind of extending and layering some of the racing green and the brown together in some of these areas up here. Just back and forth. All right. So I think we've got the gist of the combo right now. Let me just actually that'll be last. I'll save the turquoise green and the Pacific blue for last because they were just kind of accent colors. So what I am going to do now is speed up the footage, finish this up, and then I'll come back and depending on where we're at time wise, kind of talk to you guys and finish up some of the little details on our boy here, and that should finish him up. I don't know if I'll do the I'll do Molnir. We'll have time for that, but that should finish up the marker and pencil portion. So I'm gonna finish this up and I will come back and chat with you guys when I'm done. All right, I am back, and I think aside from just some really small little tweaks that I might do off camera, um, Thor's pretty much done. So as you guys saw, I went through and finished up the right side of the mountain here with the Lightfast and a couple of polychromos, and then off camera I went in and just did a couple little tweaks. So I took around the lightning. I went in with the light fast light aqua. Oh, where did it go? It's somewhere on my desk, but light aqua and Arctic instead of just using the white. So I took these two pencils and went in around Thor's eyes and in a couple spots along the lightning, and just use them to kind of change the tone of some of the acrylic paint, just to give it a different look. And then this was also, you guys saw me work down here. I ended up using Deco Peach Prismacolor on the skin, as well as the coral in the polychromos, just to give some additional uh, flesh tone shading. And I may go in and add a little bit more of that to a couple spots on his skin, and just down around where his leg connects to the mountain. I also went in off camera with another of the Tombos. This was a Tombow 565, one of the blue colors. And when I first put this down, I was not happy with the way it looked, and it just it didn't mesh well with the mountain, so I had to do a little bit of work with the colored pencil to get it to look the way I wanted. And I still might go in and do a little bit more shading around the bank. And then I was going to do some starker white highlights with the Dr. Martin's bleed Dr. PH Martin's bleed proof white. And I actually thought that it would be too much. So I ended up just taking a variety of the light fast pencils in the Arctic, the turquoise green, and the light aqua, and just applying those along the water. And I thought it gave it a much more subtle look than if I had taken the blade proof white to it. And I may go in and kind of just lighten some of this area up. I had debated giving Thor a glow all around him, and I wasn't sure as I was working through this if it would be too much. So I'm still kind of debating on that, especially because like around here there's no lightning, and the sky is behind him. So I don't think that if I was going for realism that we would see too much on the bottom part of his tunic here. I might just add some highlights just for the sake of adding highlights. And I did go in and color in with a couple of polychromos Molnir up here, and just added some additional detail to um his hair. For the most part, it's done. I have some additional things I want to do to this corner up here, but those will get recorded for the sky portion of the video, which, as I mentioned before, will come out later on um, this summer, hopefully, as long as I can piece everything together. But I did record it. So, yeah, this is going to conclude this series. Thank you guys so much for coming along on this journey with me. I super appreciate it. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. And if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified when I post additional content. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much.